I'm sorry, I don't mean to hurt you.
Excuse me. Say something.
You got a good crowd. I did. Should walk in. I'll say some nice things about you.
Hey,
Mr. Ross,
Jason.
good to see you, brother.
You too, man. How you doing?
I'm good.
Okay.
Today's my birthday, so I'm doing really good
Happy
today.
birthday. Yeah, I'm down here supporting you.
I'm glad. We're good.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
Happy birthday, Jason.
Yeah, I'm forward to your milestone birthday. What's that?
Good afternoon. I'm Doug Shipman, Atlanta City Council President, calling to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Atlanta City Council Wednesday, July 5th, 2023. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Good afternoon, Council President Doug Shipman.
Present.
Council members Michael Julian Bond, Matt Westmoreland,
Here.
Keisha Shawn Waits, Jason Winston,
Here.
Amir Faroki,
Here.
Byron Amos,
Here.
Jason Dozier,
Present.
Liliana Bakhtiari, Alex Wan, Howard Shook, Mary Norwood,
Present.
Dustin Hillis, Andrea Boone, Marcy Collier Overstreet, Antonio Lewis,
Let's go.
quorum present.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to the adoption of the agenda. The agenda was sent out ahead of time. If there are no revisions or changes, I would entertain a motion to adopt. Moved by Councilmember Bakhtiari, seconded by Councilmember Lewis. Is there any discussion on the adoption of the agenda? We can do this via unanimous consent without objection. Any objection to the motion to adopt? Madam Clerk, please sound the count on unanimous consent on the motion to adopt.
Unanimous consent is 12 yeas, 0 nays.
12 yeas, 0 nays, the motion to adopt carries. Next, we'll move to the invocation. We're very pleased to have Chaplain Roosevelt Johns from the Atlanta Fire and Rescue Department with us today to offer our invocation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Blessings to you all. Will you please bow your heads for a moment of prayer? Eternal God, our Father, we come today once again to give you your name, honor, and praise. We exalt you in the presence of this assembly, and we thank you for all your many blessings that you have bestowed on each of us here. We welcome you here today and pray that you will guide all that takes place. For you are a God of order, and we pray that everything that is done in the spirit of excellence and order. Father, we pray that you would bless the city of Atlanta at this time and the work that shall take place here today. Bless everyone under the sound of my voice as they reason together, making decisions, developing plans, delivering judgments as it relates to the operations of the city of Atlanta. Help them to always be mindful of the people to whom they serve. Bless each one of them with wisdom and clarity as they work for the good of the people. May all that they do please you and bless your people. For it's in the matchless name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
As we stay in a moment of reflection, I would ask if there are any remembrances that anyone would like to put forward at this time. Councilmember Boone.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I would like to first offer condolences to longtime members of the Collier Heights community. We have the passing of Miss Christine King Farris, and we would like to send condolences to Angela and Isaac Newton Farris Jr. They lived in the Collier Heights community for nearly 60 years. And we also have the passing of the Honorable Stephanie C. Davis, the daughter of the Honorable Myrtle Davis, and activist physician Dr. Albert Davis. Stephanie was a wonderful spirit in our city. She was injured right after college and survived nearly 40 years as a paraplegic, excelled at Emory University, and was very well educated. We are so very sorry for this tragic loss to the city of Atlanta and all of the judges at the municipal court. Lastly, Sora Marquita Grant passed away, a member of the Nu Lambda Omega chapter, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, a daughter of Atlanta. Sora Marquita was the 7th bacillus of Nu Lambda Omega chapter. She placed first as bacillus of the region, graduate advisor of the region, Margaret Davis Boyne, outstanding alumni Sora Award, individual arts and craft award. She lived on Falcon Drive in the Peyton Forest, Audubon Forest community. Please pray for this family and all of the families who have lost loved ones over the past week. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to send my condolences to the Hall family. Mr. Lyric Hall tragically passed, or was tragically killed this past Monday. He resided in the villages of Eastlake and was uncle to 2 of the kids that attended Drew. And his death could have been prevented. And I'd like to send condolences out to his family and for us to keep him and his nephews and his sister who survives him in our thoughts and prayers.
Thank you. Councilmember Lewis.
I'd like to send my thoughts and prayers to the family of Mr. and Mrs. Maxwell. Mrs. Maxwell tragically passed this past Wednesday. My love and care for that family is beyond. They taught me how to tie a tie. And so I will be continue to stopping by the house, but we still love you. That's a family in District 12. I also want to send thoughts and prayers to to 2 of the families of the young folk who were murdered in Pittsburgh last week. Deontay Brown and Mario Favors. We were able to attend his funeral this past week. We are wrapping our arms around that community. We are now holding prayer breakfasts and different types of things in the community right now with the football team because they lost a football player as well. So I want to send the prayers and thoughts to those folks, those 3 families. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Amos.
Yes, Mr. President, I just want to send our thoughts and condolences out to the family of Maceo Brown. We lost this honorable member of the community, owner of Systems 5 Electronics, and then also to the family of Mrs. Wilhelmina Smith, which was a longtime history teacher at Douglas High School. So we want to send our condolences and prayers out to those 2 families.
Thank you. Councilmember Winston.
Thank you, Council President. I want to send my deepest condolences to the family of Shanora Weiss, who was tragically 19-year-old who tragically lost her life in gun violence. Senseless gun violence that continues to plague the city with our youth, and I'm making a public plea for those who are responsible for her murder to please turn yourself in and do the responsible thing. So often we keep losing young lives at the hands of gun violence, and so I just make a plea for our youth to put the guns down, and those that are responsible for her death, please turn yourself in. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to piggyback on my colleague, Councilmember Lewis, about the young men who lost their lives in the Pittsburgh community last week. At least one of those individuals, Mario Favors, is kin to a rock in the Mechanicsville community, Terrence Favors, who lost his life to gun violence just last year. And he himself lost his son to gun violence last year as well. And so to see that family continue to be hurt by something that has just been so catastrophic for many of our neighborhoods. It's just been hurtful, not only for us on this body, but for our communities. And so I just want to emphasize that, it's important that we keep these folks in our thoughts and prayers and do what we can to uplift them in their day-to-day challenges in this city. So I just wanted to highlight that and piggyback off of my colleague.
Thank you. Councilmember Bond.
Just like to follow up with what Councilmember Amos said about Mrs. Smith. She was actually my teacher when I was at Douglas High School, and her son George was our classmate. So we just want to add those condolences to her. She was more than a wonderful educator. She was a super, super, super sweet person, really had a God-filled spirit, died on her birthday this past week. So just want to further extend those condolences to our friend, our classmate, and the Douglas Astro family.
Thank you. Any others? Well, for these and for those unnamed, would you please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Would you now please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we'll move to proclamations, commendations, and other special awards. First, I would like to ask Councilmember Boone to come forward, and all of those who are here for the recognition of Ms. Eunice Glover to come up and join us up here on the podium. Come on up.
You hear? Good afternoon. I am Andrea Boone, a member of the Atlanta City Council, and today is an amazing day for an amazing woman, Chair Eunice Glover. Ms. Glover, you are truly an unsung hero. She is one of those folks that holds all elected officials accountable. She will call you whether it is for a senior in need or whether there's a sewer issue. Ms. Glover is always on the case. She loves our young people dearly. Ms. Glover, the city of Atlanta is proud to honor you today, Chair Eunice Glover. In recognition of Chair Eunice M. Glover, whereas the Atlanta City Council is pleased to recognize Chair Eunice M. Glover, the current chair of Neighborhood Planning Unit I. Whereas Chair Glover also serves as the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board as first vice president to assist with citywide issues, goals, and objectives, as well as matters relating to citizen organizations and participation in the planning process. Whereas her career spans over 2 decades as an executive coach and human resources guru and professional. On top of her duties in these roles, she fervently serves the community. Her self-taught marketing management and interpersonal communications have garnered her the respect of many, as you can see today. Whereas she has shined her light as a leader and teacher by teaching capstone courses in leadership at different educational institutions and working 14 years in the Georgia Institute of Technology campus as an administrative professional. And whereas Ms. Glover holds a bachelor's degree in sociology with a minor in management from Georgia State University and a master's degree in organizational management from the University of Phoenix. Whereas she continuously brings a level of professionalism beyond reproach and is filled with passion to serve those in her community, her business, and Atlanta's youth, her zeal and work ethic has enriched her community and the city of Atlanta. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the Atlanta City Council, on behalf of the citizens of Atlanta, do hereby recognize Chair Eunice M. Glover for her outstanding leadership in the community and for being a pillar of hope for residents to freely express themselves. And we proclaim today Eunice M. Glover Day in the city of Atlanta, Georgia. Ms. Glover, you are an integral part of this city, especially Southwest Atlanta. So many of your neighbors are here today. I see Miss Cecilia Torrance of the Nature Girls, none other than Miss Susan J. Ross, Veltra neighbors, Dr. and Mrs. James Denzler, our first pediatric surgeon in the United States. Raise your hand, Dr. Denzler. Thank you for being here. Dr. Jackie Rhodes, Dr. Crawford from Chalet Payton, is Miss Jerry Henderson. Where's Miss Henderson? Miss Henderson, thank you for being here. Baji, thank you for being here. Mr. Roosevelt Strickland, I see he is from the Collier Heights community. There are so many people that are here, and especially our wonderful, wonderful teacher, principal, and neighbor, Miss Jackie Daniels from the Boulder Park community. Miss Angela Clyde, MPUT. So you see, we are well represented today. We are well represented from our Miss Cynthia Dunn Duhart, Rosalie Wright. Thank you for all you do in the community. You never miss a meeting, and we appreciate that. So, Ms. Glover, on behalf of the citizens of Atlanta, this is just a small token of appreciation on behalf of the citizens of Atlanta and the Atlanta City Council. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Chair Glover, in Special Recognition Award, we commend you on this July 5th, 2023, from all of the citizens in Southwest Atlanta.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Brenda Walker.
Good afternoon. I am Brenda Walker, the first Vice Chair for NPUI. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today to honor Mrs. Eunice Glover, the Chair of NPUI, with such deserved and distinguished recognition. Mrs. Glover serves the residents of NPUI with dignity, respect, integrity, equity, and inclusion to the highest level. She does all of this while getting in 15,000 steps a day, tending to her family and her other many civic obligations. You can ask Mrs. Glover anything about NPUI, our Southwest Atlanta neighborhood, or our valley, as she calls it, and you will get more than you ask for, wrapped up in a smile. Mrs. Glover advocates daily on the behalf of the residents for safe streets, the appearance of our neighborhood, safety in our valley, the love of our parks, acknowledging our history makers, and much more. Every NPUI meeting, Mrs. Glover acknowledges Mayor Maynard Jackson for instituting the system of the Neighborhood Planning Unit, NPU. Mrs. Glover's leadership of NPUI is very much appreciated, and this honor today could not have come at a more appropriate time. There is a good word that says each of us should please our neighbor for their good, to build them up. This is Mrs. Glover, building our neighbors and neighborhood up. So Councilmember Boone, and all members of City Council, thank you for recognizing Mrs. Eunice Glover today. Thank you.
Ms. Henderson. President of the Veltra Neighbors, Ms. Jerry Henderson.
Good afternoon. This is a very special moment in the Atlanta City Hall Council chambers. What a great day. What a great opportunity to gather and celebrate the good works of Mrs. Eunice Glover, who serves dutifully as chairperson of Neighborhood Planning Unit I. For 4 years, Mrs. Glover has provided extraordinary leadership on a daily basis. She is passionate and dedicated to the families and communities she serves. When we share our challenges and ideas with her, her needs become our needs. She listens with her heart and becomes our clear, compassionate, and confident voice. I often ask her, do you really sleep at night? I most admire the wisdom of Mrs. Glover, for she is intentional in giving credit where credit is due. At the beginning of each monthly meeting, she honors the legacy of our NPU founders, former Atlanta Mayor Maynard Jackson and his wife, Bunny Jackson Ransom. Showing reverence and respect for their work sets the tone for more diligent. Though they are no longer with us, we are reminded about their visions because Mrs. Glover used that as her guidepost. As we go through our agendas, we can clearly see Mrs. Glover at work, wishing everyone well and there for them. The NPU communities feel blessed and proud to work with her. She gets the job done. So today, we say thank you, Mrs. Glover, for your commitment, your spirit, your excellence, and for being a dream keeper, for giving NPUI the latitude to express our concerns, and mostly for being our voice. Mrs. Glover, you are the embodiment of this statement. The only safe ship in a storm is leadership. We honor and salute our vessel. Be encouraged by our praise, Ms. Glover. Continue to bloom where you are planted. Thank you.
And now, before we hear from other elected officials, none other than Chair Eunice M. Glover.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Boone, the City Council, and the City of Atlanta, and the NPU community. It's been wonderful working with you. And when I think about the community, I always think in terms of love of community, dignity and respect, professionalism, and commitment, because that's what all of you do. I thank the City Council for all the work you do, the elected officials for everything that you do. And the word thank you is such a very important word. And let's hug it and say it frequently. Thank you all.
I would like to recognize Ms. Glover's husband, Mr. Hamp Glover. Raise your hand. Thank you. He knows so much that goes on in the community because he's right by the woman. Thank you for everything you do. The Honorable Marcy Collier Overstreet, District 11.
Thank you, Councilmember Boone. I am indeed very proud and honored to stand amongst this community of true servants. Now, there's customer service and there's service, but these are true servants. And I thank you for that. And Ms. Glover, you lead the way. Everything that everyone is saying is absolutely true. You lead with love, compassion, honesty, dignity, integrity, and most of all, you're collaborative. You're a solution finder. And I appreciate that. We've had many, many, many long, detailed conversations about the community, and I just really appreciate working alongside you and all of you here that I see before me today. This is a great day, and congratulations. You're well-deserved.
Any other elected officials at this time?
Council member. Boone, it's
Yes.
Mary Norwood.
Yes.
You have two more NPU representatives who are here, board members from NPU-A, Gloria Cheatham, and from NPU-B, Nancy Blywise, and I'd like to ask if they could say a few remarks.
Yes, let's give them a hand for being here. And Angela Clyde, NPU-T. Angela.
Are you coming over?
Okay. Angela Clyde.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for allowing me to have a few words to say. I just want to say Ms. Glover is truly a delight. Everything that everyone has said, I can certainly ditto that. She is a very compassionate person. She is a very involved person, and she is a solution finder. I want to thank you for taking me under your wing at times and helping me as a fairly new chair in the NPU system. Today is very well deserved, very well honored to be here, and I thank you and Councilwoman Boone for allowing me the opportunity to be here today.
I'm Gloria Cheatham. I'm on the board of NPU-A. I first met Eunice live and in person just today. And I told her that I brought Kleenex. She and I have worked together for the last several years on neighborhood issues throughout Atlanta. She first contacted me on the telephone on a cold call when there were many neighborhood leaders all over the city who were concerned about what was happening via the Comprehensive Development Plan to the uniqueness of our neighborhoods. Atlanta's 242 very diverse, very unique neighborhoods all over the city. And Eunice contacted me and said, we need to join together, okay? Going to the collaboration that Councilmember Boone mentioned. She, and with her leadership, we formed a coalition of 16 of the city's 25 neighborhood planning units all over, from every corner of the city, quite literally, from A to Z. All over the city of Atlanta, we formed this coalition, and it was largely through Eunice's leadership. She was out there making phone calls, and it inspired me, so I started making phone calls. And to the very end, when we finally were able, with council members, especially under Council Member Matt McSorland's leadership, when we put an amended CDP before City Council that recognized and helped preserve the neighborhoods of Atlanta, and that brought the CDP under the Atlanta City Design, which is such a savior of what a conservation effort to preserve what is important in Atlanta, including our neighborhoods, including our neighborhood history, including the uniqueness and diversity of our neighborhoods. And when even until the very day that this was going to vote, Eunice was still on the phone with me saying, let me make another run at NPUL, or thank you. I cannot say enough wonderful things about this wonderful and committed neighborhood leader.
Nancy Blywise, NPUB, thank you, and I will keep it short. Just thank you. When I first joined NPU and became chair of NPUB, our first meeting, you were one of the first people I met. You sat down at the table, welcomed me, and showed me how to get it done. So your love of community is just so part of who you've been for so many years. Thank you, and thank you for your guidance.
The Honorable Michael Julian Bond.
Just briefly, Ms. Glover, the irony of your position in NPUI is that there is no I in team. And there's no I in the type of service that you provide to the community. So we want to just extend again another great congratulations and thank you for your service. I would reach for the hem of your garment, but I see your husband standing there, so I will relent. But God bless you, thank you, and we appreciate you.
And now we have a photo, an official photo. Ms. Glover, please stand forward. Please come forward. Please go forward. Okay.
Thank you, Councilmember Boone. Sorry to hold up the photo, but I just wanted to make sure that the people out in the audience, the people out there in the world watching this on Channel 26 know we said a lot of remarkable things about Ms. Glover today, but one thing I want y'all to know is that Ms. Glover represents all 25 of those neighborhood planning units, all 242 of those City of Atlanta neighborhoods on the Invest Atlanta board. And even though we've only served on the Invest Atlanta board together for the last 6 months, I've learned so much from you and just seeing your advocacy at work in these very critical conversations that we're having as a city, as a community, has just been so impactful for me. And I know it's been impactful for many of my fellow board members. I know Dr. Eloisa Clementis is here as well. We just want to say we appreciate you and your service, your continued service to the city in such a big way, but just thank you for everything.
And I want to make sure that we ask all the nature girls to raise their hand. They are our rock in Southwest Atlanta. Thank you, Ms. Torrance, and your entire group. Thank you.
And if you can't see the picture, camera, you're not in the picture. So, no, that's serious. Well, as long as it's
So we got to grow up, huh? Okay. I'm coming. Okay.
I don't see.
Where's the camera? I can't tip no more.
Wonderful recognition.
I catch. I want to get it. I want to get an autograph. I'll follow you later.
I'll follow Eunice.
Thank you all. Now I'd like to invite Councilmember Bond to come forward, and all of those who are here for the recognition of Cystography to come up as well. Please join us up on the podium. Councilmember Bond.
Dukes, Bryson. Thank you, Mr. President. You got the pens? Got the pens? We need those. Go down this line. Give them each a pen. You can swing on around. Come on down.
Come on in. Can we get 3 rows here? 3 rows?
Yeah, come on around.
Come on. 3 rows right here. 3 rows. Ladies, bunch up right here. Stay close. 3 rows right here. I can't be in the front of the photo. 3 rows.
Yeah, come on around.
Come on, y'all.
Just
3
on-
rows. Come on, right back here, so we can see you all in the camera. 3 rows. 1, 2, 3. Come on, y'all. Behind, and so we can see you in the camera.
Trying to get a view.
I know, right?
We too short to be in the back.
Everybody over here got a pen? Everybody got one? Make sure these ladies have one. want to say good afternoon to everyone. It is really a pleasure and an honor to be here this afternoon to honor such an organization that has brought so much enlightenment and art to the fore on behalf of our greater society. I do want to mention one. Sue is already here. I would have always called her out if she was not here, but Sylvia McAfee, who's a city employee. Sylvia is also my classmate, and we took photography together, and we're on the school newspaper as photographers just a couple of weeks ago at Douglas High School. But photography is one of my early loves, and so it is great to be here amongst so many that have done so much in opening up their lens, but in doing so have opened the world's eye to intrinsic beauty and insight here in our society. And so without further ado, we have a proclamation, which is the city's highest award that we can bestow upon a person, place, or thing. And we're here to do so on not just the organization, but in spirit and by extension to all the members of Cystography. And I will read the proclamation in pertinent part. Proclamation in honor of Cystography, whereas Cystography, the Atlanta-based collective of women of color photographers, will celebrate its 30th anniversary in July 2023 with a special exhibition evening at the Auburn Avenue Research Library on African American culture and history in celebration of 30 years of distinguished visual art excellence and creativity. Whereas Cystography was organized in 1993 by the late photographer Sheila Turner, who envisioned the photographic exhibit highlighting the diverse range of photographic contributions by African American women photographers. Whereas Cystography, meaning Sisters of Photography, provides a forum for women of color photographers to examine contemporary and historical issues that affect society through the photographic medium. And whereas Cystography is comprised of members from novice to professional photographers of various ages throughout the diaspora and have participated in over 100 exhibitions around the country. Whereas the tradition of the African vision experience, members of Cystography mentor and serve as role models to newer and less experienced members, including project targeting and documenting their community. Whereas Cystography members merge their repertoire, documentary, and digital mixed medium platforms with playfulness, innovation, and contributing a unique voice to the broader dialogue surrounding fine art photography. And whereas Cystography, the sisterhood is strong. Whereas Cystography extends its photographic voice, both nationally and internationally, is hitting the is fitting that the fittingly and proper that the City of Atlanta recognizes the outstanding work and community involvement of this collective. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Council, on behalf of the citizens of the City of Atlanta, do hereby proclaim this day as July 5th, 2023, as Cystography Day in our fair city, and witness thereof, I have set my hand and have caused the seal of the City of Atlanta to be hereunto affixed. Congratulations, Cystography. And now we will briefly hear from members of the Atlanta City Council. Councilwoman Boone.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. I first learned of Cystography from none other than our neighbor, our friend, our dedicated, diligent servant, Susan J. Ross. And then I later learned from Angela, who was Catherine's wife. They took me through their home, and it was like a museum. So thank you for capturing the moment. You all are so very talented. We love you. Congratulations. Whatever we can do to support you all, we are here for you. Congratulations, Cystography. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Where's Councilman Wade?
Sue.
Don't be shy. You know, we're amongst friends.
No pressure.
No, it's no pressure. Millions of people watching.
No, I wouldn't miss the opportunity to congratulate my friends in terms of keeping a catalog of the history of Atlanta. And so it's a pleasure to stand here with you today, and I look forward to another several decades of service. Again, thank all of you and congratulations.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the council? Okay. Now we'll. Well, I'd like to bring to the microphone someone who's been a long-time friend of mine ever since my NAACP days, when I used to help Alethea across the street when she was a little girl. Miss Alethea Bonello.
Thank you, Councilman Bond, to President Shipman, the other members of the Atlanta City Council, members, guests, and Cystographers. We are so humbled and thankful for this honor on today. Sheila Turner, our dear founder, that actually her birthday was just a couple days ago. And we are grateful that she took a vision that was not seen, that women, Black women in Atlanta were doing their things individually, but she had a vision of coming together collectively to bring us together. And so in July of 1993, there was an exhibit that she conceived, and the original 9 members were Stasha Allen, Barbara Bishop, Angel Healy, Deborah Like, Amanda Morris, Susan Ross, Sheila Turner, Fernita Ware, and Denise Wilkerson. And from this vision, the manifestation of beauty, the manifestation, as Councilman Boone said, capturing the moment, not only of things that have taken place in Atlanta, not only the high level firsts that have been achieved, but just capturing the moments in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and so many other places around Atlanta and around the world. And we've been able to go ahead and just pause that moment, bring it back to Atlanta, and expose the wonderful things that are happening. We have been able to create a continuation of what happened in Africa with our photogriots. And instead of just orally sharing the story, we've been able to visually keep the history going. Yes. And so we are grateful that Atlanta has embraced us, has kept us, and we also want to lift up those who are no longer here, but their product, their exhibits are still going. Our dear mentor, Dr. Doris Derby and Denise Gray. We lift up Afi Bufford. We lift up Terry Woods. We lift up Audrey Johnson. So many beautiful women that continue. And we have grown, and indeed, the sisterhood is strong. So we ask that you continue to celebrate with us this July. We have an exhibit that is going on right now at the Auburn Avenue Library from now until August 17th. And we invite you to participate with us and celebrate this Saturday at 2 p.m. at Auburn Avenue Library to go ahead and celebrate with us for our official opening of this. So continue to be with us to show us that we can share with you our gift. And now I'd like to bring on Miss Stephanie Gale Adderley, Sheila Turner's dear sister, and followed by Susan Ross.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is a very trying time for the family. The love that my sister spread amongst Atlanta and with Cystography, the vision that she had, and for it to be 30 years is a legacy, a very strong legacy for an African-American woman. You know, out of Atlanta, based out of Columbus, Georgia, but moved to Atlanta, and Atlanta became her home. The family is so proud. Her birthday was July 2nd, and we were so overwhelmed and so proud, and it's been 5 years since her passing, and it's been very challenging, but I know she's smiling. I know she's very happy. You know, it's like they said, sisterhood is strong. They're still thriving. We still have exhibits. Like you mentioned, the Auburn Avenue Research Library this weekend, July 8th. Please come out and support us. I decided to become a member. I'm a novice photographer, so I decided to become a member, but the legacy is strong. The women are strong. It just touched my heart and touched the family's heart, and the women are just awesome. Thank y'all. Yeah.
The boss.
Boss Ross.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking. I am just would like to thank Michael Julian Bond and Andrea Boone and the entire Atlanta City Council for recognizing Cystography. We have been out in these streets documenting our community, documenting our history for 30 years. I was in the initial group of women who Sheila Turner asked to join her in an exhibition at Frames in Fine Art. And we had so much fun putting the exhibit together and putting, and that at the reception, we said we need to make a permanent organization. And so we did. And so I named it Cystography, standing for Sisters of Photography. And so we're here 30 years later. We expect to be around for another 30 years, God willing. The creek don't rise. And again, just thanks to all of the women who contribute to Cystography on a daily basis and who help to document African American communities all over the world. Thank you. Congratulations.
And now we will do something that you all are not accustomed to. We will, being in the picture, and so we'd like to ask everybody, oh, what? Oh, wait a minute. I know this is about women and about photography, but I would be remiss if I don't acknowledge who I'm named after, Mr. Michael Ross, back there in the back. Sue's big little brother. And so let's all step forward and take a picture.
How do we do it? Yeah, that's what I'm trying.
Just come over here.
I think you got it. It's good to see you. All right. I just don't have a t-shirt. Oh, good. I was wondering if you could. I didn't even know about the t-shirts. What? What? Oh, that's Stephanie.
be right back.
Thank you. We'll now move into remarks from the public. Just as a reminder, you have 2 minutes unless you have time yielded from someone else who signed up. We only have a handful today. So we'll begin with Henry Jordan. 2 minutes.
Except the Lord build a house, they labor in vain that build it. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman worketh, but in vain. Psalms 127, chapter 1st verse. The principle of this psalm is that all human efforts are in vain unless they have God's blessing. James Scripps, Jesus created the income to help us live holy for Him. Christ give us the power to disobey Satan and the power to obey Jesus. Let him know that he which converted the sinner from the error of his way shall save a soul from death and shall hide a multitude of sins. James 5th chapter 28th verse. Convert does not here means to save, but to restore, as in Luke 22nd chapter 32nd verse. Death is the physical death by which God sometimes punishes his disobedient people. To deliver thee from the way of the evil man, from the man that speaketh forward things. Proverbs 2nd chapter 12th verse. The conditions for attaining wisdom are given first. One must earnestly seek it, as a prospector would search for gold. Verses 26 to 28. And in those days shall men seek death and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. Revelation 9th chapter 6 verse. The torment will be so great that they will desire to die. But part of the judgment will be that men cannot die to escape it. This is the reason I minister the word to you, to avoid Jesus' punishment for sin. The reason the Lord told me that I could work with y'all, with Cop City, because He had let me know that y'all will honor what Christ has done in me, honor the way Christ want to do it.
Time is expired.
And not the way man want to do it.
Thank you. Next will be Jimmy Hill.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. God is good. One thing I do know about leaders in Atlanta, y'all gonna take care of Buckhead. Y'all gonna make sure Buckhead all right. But what about lower income residents? You know, over a month and a half ago, I had a nephew, came home from college, don't know nothing about the streets. Walked to McDonald's to get him something to eat, and on the way back, a guy pulled up on him on a bicycle and shot him 2 times. So, my sister really just went about berserk because she had a 16-year-old son murdered that went to Maid High that was also murdered by gun violence in 2005. So, Antonio Lewis, that's your district. I reached out to you. I didn't want to come up here and speak because I tried to keep talking to you personally. Me and my sister had a conference call with you. And you set up a meeting for us to meet with yourself and a police chief. 3 days later at 1:30, we never heard anything back from you. 3 days later, we called again. We reached out to you. You whispered and said you was in a meeting. Still ain't heard nothing from you. We've been calling you every day. We done called you over 14 times. I even sent you an email about this situation. My sister, my nephew had to catch a Uber to go to work. My sister won't even let him go out the door to walk to that same McDonald's no more. And you want to speak about gun violence? I spoke to you and I told you personally what was going on with my sister. I spoke to you in person. I was like, my family we don't want my family to get involved because there'll be a lot of bloodshed around here. So how is that stopping the violence? You know, we trusted you. And all the thing we asked you to do was just show you care, and yet still you ignored us. Like my nephew's life didn't mean nothing. So what we're gonna have? We're gonna take him to die the next time for you to be in the spotlight. It seems like that's the only time you show up is in the spotlight.
Time has expired.
It's time for y'all to start caring about these lower income residents.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Hill, I know I did call you back and I talked to you after I talked to your sister and you said y'all didn't talk that much. I invited your sister down to our event every single Monday night. I had to
go to the police.
So after my conversation, yes, sir.
Find out all this information.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hill, please let Mr. Lewis finish.
Yes, sir. And we also had Fulton County reach out to your sister, and I also reached out to your sister and invited her back down to the meetings.
I went to police headquarters and got the information myself. After we tried to call you over 14, 15 times.
Mr. Hill, please.
And I still answer my phone every time you call me. And I still called your sister back, and I invited her down to the meetings that we have every single Monday at Roselle Fan to help fight against gun violence, because we do know gun violence is.
Mr. Hill, you've had your 2 minutes. Thank you. Mr. Lewis? Done? Next will be Devin Franklin. Due to yield the time, you'll have up to 4 minutes.
Good afternoon, council persons. Devin Franklin with the Southern Center for Human Rights. Last August, this body passed legislation 22-0-1632 for the express purposes of alleviating overcrowding at the Fulton County Jail by having detained persons move from Fulton County Jail to Atlanta City Detention Center. I think we're all very familiar with that. And aside from the normal updates that I typically provide concerning the inefficiencies and insufficiencies and dangers and shortcomings of that legislation, which on that point, since the last time I spoke to you all, there have been at least 2 deaths and 5 stabbings in a weekend at Fulton County Jail and hundreds of unused beds at Atlanta City Detention Center, as we told you what happened pursuant to the lease. Nevertheless, I'm bringing you news of how Atlanta police are actually still contributing to the overcrowding at Fulton County Jail in direct contradiction to the jail lease agreement. This last week, the arrest of Atlanta activist Lorraine Fontana was illustrative of APD's pattern and practice of taking persons charged with offenses where there is concurrent jurisdiction between the city and the county to Fulton County Jail instead of to Atlanta City Detention Center. Specifically, what I'm speaking about is the charge of criminal trespass. And I'm not talking about it just because it was Miss Lorraine. I'm more concerned about those people who are not Miss Lorraine and who were put into this position. I pray that the reason that Atlanta Police Department officers are taking persons to Fulton County Jail and not ACDC is not some sort of petulant, petty circumvention of the successes and achievements of bail reform in the city of Atlanta. But I do need to name and articulate that the harm caused is requiring persons charged with such offenses as criminal trespass to be taken to a place where they have to pay bail and bond to get out, as opposed to coming to the Atlanta City Detention Center where that's not the case, and where they will be released not on cash bond but on their own recognizance. This is not only expensive and harmful for accused persons, but it is harmful for the persons already detained in Fulton County Jail and living under conditions where staffing shortages already place them at a level of harm and danger where it's beyond what is acceptable. We spend a lot of time hearing you all brag about how nice and clean and pristine and humane the Atlanta City Detention Center is. I'm asking you all to inform Atlanta Police Department to use the jail that you all still have. I maintain my fervent belief that there are better alternatives to arrest and incarceration, and those are things that build and sustain community and advance public safety. However, if you all are going to maintain and use ACDC, I am here to urge you all to urge the police department to make use of it as opposed to confounding the issues going on at ACDC, at Fulton County Jail. On that note, I will provide further update on this as time is to come, but I would like for each of you all to know that an invitation is headed to everyone. From the Southern Center for Human Rights, on August 19th, we will be holding a stakeholder symposium, which is the culminating event of a series of town halls and crosstown conversations that we have been having regarding community safety and policing violence in the city of Atlanta. Some of you all have received these recommendations already, and I look forward to continuing this conversation with you at a further time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up will be DeJuan Robinson. You'll have up to 2 minutes.
No, check your notes, Mr. President. Check your notes. I should have 6 minutes.
I don't have another one.
Well,
Sorry.
can you find, can you
Oh,
contact
I do,
the clerk's
sorry,
office?
just got
Oh, there we, hey.
It's like magic. There you go.
Hey, and a
Got
slight,
second sheet.
slight correction, Mr.
4
President.
minutes.
June 17th, I received my doctorate. So from now on, I would like to be addressed as Dr. DeJuan Robinson. So with all due respect, because I called you Mr. President, so with all due respect,
I'm
I would
happy
like to be
as
called
long as
Dr.
you note
DeJuan.
it down here. I always read exactly what's
I
here.
did. So before I get to start speaking, I would just like to give a few seconds of my time to the man who this chamber is named after. We just found out passed away 2 hours ago. So to the great Marvin Arrington Sr., just passed away, so we would like to give a condolences for Mr. Arrington and his family. So what brings me here, counsel, is there's a young lady downstairs in the permit when you want to rent out the park and you need a permit down there. They had a Caribbean festival over in District 9 where I'm from that Mr. Hillis is over just came in. He ridiculed these black girls down there and told them in an email, didn't I tell y'all that I don't want that over here in my district? Caribbean festival. Now you got a council member saying he don't want that over in his district. Too loud, too noisy. But we have all these other festivals in the city that just as loud, just as noisy, and they don't have an issue with that. And I just want to say, man, with all due respect, I try to respect each and every last one of you, whether I agree or not. But that's your last time, Mr. Hillis. And I don't want your office, nobody office calling me tomorrow as a threat. That's your last time you gonna be disrespecting black women like that, man. Or black folks in general. We know you don't give a damn about it, but you're not gonna be doing it. Know what I'm saying? And we got 2 black women on this panel. I don't know if the young lady came to y'all to talk about it, but y'all need to do something about that. These girls downstairs are not going to be disrespected by a council member trying to bully them because he don't want some in his district where he's a visitor at. Man, you're not from Atlanta. You don't make up Atlanta. You don't say what you don't want over there, man. Hell, we want a grocery store and base over there for seniors on the black side. You know what I'm saying? But y'all put everything over there on the white side over there. You done voted yourself out on the black side so you can be voted in on the white side. So you're not going to be playing politics with the people that's born and raised in Atlanta. And whoever want to have a festival, they got a right to do it. You know what I'm saying? Without you backdooring, trying to bully folk into not approve a festival. Don't nobody say that with all your midnight butt-naked parties you have at your pool over there in your neighborhood. Don't nobody say nothing about that. With your sneaky ass throwing rocks behind your hands in this city. It's gonna be
Robinson.
okay, but you didn't. Hey,
Thank
you let them folks down here with that cop say to say what they want to say and cuss, and I watched you for 13 hours. You didn't stop them. You said let the people speak. Let them say it. I'm not saying, but you let them cuss and you let them cuss and act up. That's the only reason why I did it, because I knew you was gonna check me. But you did not check them folks from Cop City when they was up here acting a stone cold. Yeah, you didn't stop them. So I'm just saying though, we got to be fair all the way around the board. We can't pick and choose. We want to do it, and that's the problem that we are having in this city. When you guys come, you say everything to get voted, man, but you sit here, man, the people got to still beg and plead, you know what I'm saying, for things you want. Another thing that I'm going to say that I have an issue with, and I think this council should consider this. You know what I'm saying, with all due respect for Jason Dozier and Matt Westmoreland, you guys have a chief of staff that is also a school board member. I think that that is a conflict of interest. You cannot have a chief of staff of a council member that's also a voted school board member. With all due respect, from research, we know that she was Matt Westmoreland's babysitter when he was a kid. So there's love and admiration and respect there. But morally, we can't have that, Mr. Shook. And what really baffles me is when the last administration, which is the Reid administration, Mr. Shook, you got in front of that news and had a lot to say about corruption. But when it come to your white counterpart, Dustin Hiller, you ain't breathed a word. When we got this Sweet Auburn market that ain't paid rent to the city in 20 years, you ain't breathed a word. Like, y'all don't say that when it benefits you guys or if it people that look like you. And we can't do that. Corruption is corruption. If Dustin Hillers is corrupt, speak on it. You spoke on a mayor, but you won't speak on a council member? That we know him and his wife and all these folks and Mr. Brock, them are taking over these properties, and you pricing stuff $900,000 on Bankhead. Y'all know what they doing over there, man, but you won't breath a word. Corruption is corruption. It don't matter if it's white, black, brown, man. If it's at the benefit of the people, we have to speak on it. But I'm gonna end this note here. Council, you guys should consider that we can't have a school board member or chief of staff. We just can't do it. It muddied the waters in so many ways. Like, it's too much, she got too much information from the city that she taking back over there to APS and nah, we can't have that, man. We can't have that. And Mr. Hillers, I know you will never go apologize to them brown-skinned girls downstairs, but you need to. And I know you're not, but if it ever happens again, I won't be coming to City Hall no more because they're going to bar me from here because I'm going to use every power that I can. I'm going to take every method that I can.
Time is
You know what I'm
expired.
saying? Because you won't do that no more, brother.
I would just like to take a moment to confirm that I have been informed that Marvin Arrington Sr., who is a former president of this body, illustrative member of our community, has indeed passed. There will be much written and much said, but we extend our condolences and our thoughts and prayers to his family, and what an extraordinary life that he lived. Next, we'll have Helen Williams Bolston.
Point of order.
Councilor Bond.
I think it would be appropriate, since we're all getting the news, to pause our proceedings for a moment of silence for Marvin Arrington.
Amen.
Amen.
Be happy to take a moment of silence. If you please join me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ooh, that's a hard one to follow. Good morning, good morning. I think it's afternoon, I'm sorry. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Helen Williams Bolston. I'm in the Vine City community. I wanted to say happy belated birthday to Councilman Dozier. I would like to say good morning to Mr. Bond. Thank you for always sharing your time with me. And Ms. Norwood, I just wanted to tell you also thank you for all the many years that I've seen you run your race. I'm here to stand and speak on what's going on in my community. I am in the Vine City community, and I have a very, very strong concern on what we're about to address for the future. The World Cup is coming. And my house needs a little cleaning. And I'm here to speak directly to Mr. Amos. He is our city councilman, and I just wanted to figure out how we can get this done. In reference of, we have several houses that are dilapidated, that are just a sore thumb in the community, and they're owned by major developers who are waiting for that money to come through. But what happens is that it makes us look bad. When they do that really nice shot of Rodney Cook Park, you get the overhead shot. But when you sit down and you walk in the community, you don't see that at all. You see houses, you see bad houses. I am a homeowner. I am a legacy homeowner of Vine City. My house is paid for. And the fact that I'm grateful for that, I walk around and move around in the community to help other people move around as far as cleaning up. And just to share, I heard the bell, just to share a quick story. This past Friday, 300 bikers came from downtown to Vine Street, and I decided, it's like, let me hurry up and jump and go with them. I go with them, and as we rode, rode up Sunset, went over to Clark, we went over to Ashview, we went over toward the new Proctor Creek. But when I got home, I realized that my community was the worst one. I got a problem with that. Help me.
Time has expired. Thank you. Our final speaker today is Desiree Thomas. You'll have up to 2 minutes.
Hello, City Council people. Hope y'all are all having a great day. I am, because y'all are about to pass some abortion funding for me, and I really appreciate that. I've been coming up here for the last month advocating for funding for ARC Southeast, which is Georgia's only abortion fund. Asking for the city to donate to the abortion fund as they did last year. You guys were the first city council in the Southeast to do that, and I hope you're proud of yourself for doing that. Funding abortion is a radical act, and I'm really appreciative that the city council is able to engage in that radical act with us. Abortion is critical health care. Reproductive justice is under attack in the whole South. And so for Georgia, and specifically the Atlanta City Council, to be standing up and saying, no, that's not okay, and we don't stand with that, we don't support that, is very important. And so I appreciate you also telling your other county counterparts, as well as other municipalities, that they can do the same thing. Thank you for leading by example. I hope to meet with all of you and talk to all of you about other ways that the City Council can act to support abortion access and reproductive justice more broadly. There's lots of things that cities can do to protect abortion access, even in the wake of our state not being as supportive as they should be of reproductive justice. And so I will be sending out emails to all of you if you have not gotten them already, because I would love to just see where you are on reproductive justice and talk about how you can help support your community in doing this work. And so I appreciate you for passing this. I hope that Fulton County does the same, DeKalb County does the same. I'll be talking to those folks about that. Yeah, so I want to be very clear, like I'm gonna come up here and I'm probably gonna say things about y'all and to y'all that you don't like in the future, but I want you to know that what you're doing right now is very important. And thank y'all for being a partner in that.
Thank you. I want to thank all the members of the public who have come today to provide public comment. Before we move forward, I would just like to remind council colleagues, you have a ballot in front of you per the Fulton County Board of Health appointment. I would ask that you please fill out your selection and return that to the clerk, ideally prior to when we come to the Committee on Council standing report, where that will come forward. You have paper copies in front of you. With that, I would ask the clerk to come forward with the report of the journal.
Good afternoon. I, Vanessa Walden, Interim Municipal Clerk, do hereby certify that the minutes of the June 20th, 2023 regular meeting of the Atlanta City Council are true and correct.
If there are no additions or changes to the minutes, I would entertain a motion to adopt. Moved by Councilmember Norwood, seconded by Councilmember Hillis. In discussion on the motion to adopt the minutes, we do this via unanimous consent without objection. Any objection to the motion to adopt? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please sound the count on the unanimous consent on the motion to adopt the journal.
Unanimous consent is 14 yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt carries. Next, we'll move to communications. Madam Clerk.
First communication is 23C5076, a communication from council members Jason Winston, District 1, Amir R. Faroki, District 2, Byron D. Amos, District 3, Jason S. Dozier, District 4, and Michael Julian Bond, Post 1 at Large, appointing Mr. Derek Green to serve as a member of the Interim Review Board of the City of Atlanta. This appointment is for a term of 3 years. Staff recommendation is to refer to the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee and the Committee on Council.
Let it follow that course.
Number 2, 23C5077, a communication from council members Jason Winston, District 1, Amir R. Faroki, District 2, Byron D. Amos, District 3, Jason S. Dozier, District 4, and Michael Julian Bond, Post 1 at Large, appointing Ms. Judy Bird to serve as a member of the Stakeholder Oversight Committee. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. Staff recommendation is to refer to Transportation Committee and Committee on Council.
Let it follow that course.
I'd like to take communications 3 and 4 as a block, please.
Without objection, please proceed.
23C5078, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens reappointing Mr. Joshua Humphreys to serve as a member of the Municipal Market Company Board of Directors. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. 23C5079, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens reappointing Ms. Amber A. Robinson to serve as a member of the Municipal Market Company Board of Directors. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. Both staff recommendation is to refer to Community Development and Human Services Committee and Committee on Council.
Let both items follow that course.
That ends communications.
Thank you. Is there any vetoed legislation for consideration?
No, sir.
I believe there is one unfinished piece of business from our prior council meeting. It comes back on the agenda. It's 23-0-1298. Could you please sound that item, Madam
Sure.
Clerk?
23-0-1298, an ordinance by Council Member Mary Norwood to name 473 Woodward Way, Northwest, Fulton County Tax Parcel, number identified Betty Young Park, to waive certain provisions of sections 138-8 and 2-2 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances and for other purposes. Councilmember Norwood made a motion to table this item during the full council meeting held on June 20th. It was seconded and motion carried by roll call vote.
Yes, and Mr. President, I'd like to request that it continue to be held in the breast of council. I am going to get the information that we need by Tuesday at the CDHS meeting, and so I would like it held for one more cycle, please.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilman Norwood, seconded by Councilman Westmoreland, to hold in the breast of council. Since this is the second time the council is taking this item in the breast of council, it requires a 2/3 vote. It is not debatable. So we'll move directly to a vote. It takes 10 aye votes to hold in the breast of council. So the aye is to continue to hold, and nay is to deny that motion. Madam Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to hold in the breast of council.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to hold in the breast of council carries.
Thank you.
If you will hold just one moment, before we move on to the consent agenda, I'm going to send all council members an email with the resumes of the Board of Health nominees so you can see their backgrounds. If you just give me one moment, we'll do that, and then we'll move to the consent agenda. Okay, now we move to the consent agenda, section 1. This can be found on page 4 of your materials. These are all items for second reading. The appropriate motion here that I will entertain will be to adopt. Before I do that, I'll ask colleagues, are there any items from the consent agenda, section 1, to be removed today? Councilmember Bond. Oh, that was from before. Any items to be removed? Hearing none, I'd move to adopt. Is there a motion? Motion by Councilmember Westmoreland, seconded by Councilmember Juan. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt the consent agenda, section 1? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt the consent agenda, section 1.
One moment, please. The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 14 yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt the consent agenda, section 1 carries. We'll now move to the consent agenda, section 2. This begins on page 19 of your materials. These are items for first reading. The appropriate motion here will be to refer. Let me first ask, are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda, section 2? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to refer by Councilmember Juan. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Shook. Is there any discussion on the motion to refer the consent agenda, section 2? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to refer.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 14 yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to refer carries. We'll now move to the report of the standing committees. First up today will be the City Utilities Committee, Chair Winston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we have one item today, which is on page 22. This is 23-R-3764, an amendment resolution by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an agreement for the number listed on call services for instrumentation and process control with LL Blue Engineering LLC on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management for a term of 3 years with 2 one-year renewal options in an amount not to exceed $13,050,000.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account number listed herein and for other purposes. Colleagues, this item was favorable with 5 yeas and 1 abstention. The motion is to adopt.
There's a motion to adopt 23-R-3767 coming out of committee. It does not need a second. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt this item? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 14 yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt carries. Councilmember Shook.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I meant to vote nay and thought I had.
Oh, please reflect Councilmember Shook as a nay.
Correction, 13 yeas, 1 nay.
13 yeas, 1 nay. The motion to adopt carries.
Thank you, Council President. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Next up will be the CDHS Committee, Chair Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, if you could join me on page 24 of the full council agenda. We have one item, it's Resolution 23-R-3759. This is a resolution by Councilmember Dustin Hillis authorizing the contribution of a total amount not to exceed $500,000.00 to the Path Foundation to support projects in District 9, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to make payment from the account number listed herein and for other purposes. Colleagues, we actually have a substitute for this particular item. This was approved, favorable condition of this substitute. That substitute was emailed to you all, and I actually would like to make a motion to bring forth the substitute.
There's a motion to bring forth the substitute by Councilmember Dozier, seconded by Councilmember Wan. Is there any discussion on the motion to bring forth the substitute? Hearing none, we can do this via unanimous consent without objection. Is there any objection to bringing forth the substitute? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please sound the count on unanimous consent on the motion to bring forth the substitute.
Fourteen yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to bring forth the substitute carries.
All right, colleagues, so the substitute does not change the caption,
There's unanimous consent. Yep. Please proceed.
The substitute does not change the caption, so I'm not going to reread the caption, but I would like to make a motion to adopt as substituted.
There's a motion by Councilmember Dozier to adopt 23-R-3759 as substituted. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Hillis. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt as substituted? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt as substituted.
The vote is open.
Councilmember Bond? Sorry?
What does it do?
What does the substitute do? Point of clarification, could
Yes.
you outline what the substitution does?
My understanding is that it fixes some of the account strings and makes the correct references in the ordained clause.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt a substitute.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt a substitute carries.
Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next up, we will move to the Transportation Committee. Chair Faroki.
Thank you, President Shipman. We have no report today.
Thank you. Next, we will move to the Finance Exec Committee. Chair Wan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Also, no report.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to the Committee on Council. Chair Bakhtiari. And again, I'd remind everybody, if you haven't turned in your ballot around the Board of Health, please do so at this time.
Thank you, Council President. Request to take items 1 through 3 as a block.
Without objection, please proceed.
Thank you. Item 123-C-5069, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing Ms. Donna Stevens to serve as a member of the of the Chattahoochee Brick Company Memorial Green Space and Park Board. Item number 2, 23-C-5070, a communication from Ann Phillips, President, Atlanta Planning Advisory Board, submitting the appointment of Ms. Heather Graybill to serve as a member of the Atlanta Beltline Tax Allocation District Advisory Committee. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. Item 3, 23-C-5071, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing Mr. Darren Sims to serve as a member of the Chattahoochee Brick Company Memorial Green Space and Park Board. All of these items were voted favorable in COC, and I move to adopt.
There's a motion coming out of the COC to adopt items 1 through 3. It does not need a second since they came out of committee favorable. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt these 3 items? Since these are communications, we can do this via unanimous consent without objection. Any objection to the motion to adopt these 3 items? Madam Clerk, please sound the count on the motion, on the unanimous consent on the motion to adopt.
Fifteen yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt these 3 items carries.
Thank you. We have, moving on to communications and resolutions, item number 4, 23-R-3806, a resolution by Councilmember Jason Dozier appointing Mr. Noah Downer to serve on the Municipal Market Board of Directors for a term of 2 years, scheduled to begin upon the approval of this resolution and for other purposes. This passed unanimously out of its committee and favorably in COC, and I move to adopt.
There's a motion to adopt 23-R-3806 coming out of committee. It doesn't need a second. Any discussion on the motion to adopt this item? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt.
Teresa.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt carries.
Thank you. Next item, 23-R-3807, a resolution by Committee on Council appointing blanks to the Fulton County Board of Health as a City Council appointee for a term of 6 years. Said term to begin upon the approval of this resolution and for other purposes. We need to motion to amend to include Robert Jensen's name.
There's a motion to amend 23-R-3807 to insert the name of Robert Jensen. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Juan. The motion was by Councilmember Bakhtiari, seconded by Councilmember Juan. Is there any discussion on the motion to amend? We can do this via unanimous consent or without objection. Any objection to the motion to amend? Madam Clerk, please sound the count on unanimous consent on the motion to amend.
Unanimous consent is 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to amend carries.
Do I need to reread with his name? Or? Okay. All right, so with the amendment, it now reads, a resolution by Committee on Council appointing Mr. Robert Jansen to the Fulton County Board of Health as a City Council appointee for a term of 6 years, said term to begin upon approval of this resolution and for other purposes, and I move to approve.
There's a motion by Councilmember Bakhtiari, seconded by Councilmember Juan, to adopt 23-R-3807 as amended. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt this item? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt as amended.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt as amended carries.
Thank you. And just so everyone is aware, there were 12 votes for Mr. Jansen, just so that we all know. Moving on to my last item, 23-0-1326, an ordinance as amended by Committee on Council to amend City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Section 62-2, precinct boundary lines and polling places by amending the 2017 Precincts and Polling Places Ordinance in Fulton County Precincts 02L1A, 03N, 04T, 08G, 08M, 09B, 10R, and 12L due to facilities being unavailable and precinct location mergers and for other purposes. This was found favorable as amended, and I motion to adopt as amended.
There is a motion to adopt coming out of committee, 23-0-1326 as amended. It doesn't need a second. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt this item? Hearing none, we'll move to vote. Madam Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt.
The vote is open. Will all members please vote? The vote is closed. 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt carries.
Thank you so much, and this concludes my report. Also, happy birthday, Councilmember Jason Dozier.
Happy birthday indeed, Councilmember Dozier. Next up will be Zoning Committee, Councilmember Overstreet.
Okay, everyone. It is time for the Zoning Committee report. Everyone, please turn your agendas to page 41 for this lengthy report. Settle in. President Shipman, I'd like to take item number 1.
Please proceed.
First reads legislative number 23-0-1325, case number MRPA 23-04, location 1865 River Forest Road Northwest. The ordinance is to allow the construction of an addition to the single-family dwelling. I move to refer item number 1 to the Zoning Committee.
There's a motion to refer 23-0-1325 to the Zoning Committee. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Hillis. Is there any discussion on the motion to refer this item? Hearing none, we'll move to vote. Madam Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to refer.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to refer carries.
Thank you. That ends my report.
Thank you so much. Finally, today will be Public Safety and Legal Administration. Chair Hillis.
Thank you, President Shipman. We have 2 items on our report. We'll take my ordinance first, my resolution first. 23R3760, a resolution by Councilmember Dustin Hillis authorizing the contribution of a total amount not to exceed $500,000.00 to the Atlanta Police Foundation to purchase, install, and for the maintenance of safety and security cameras to be located in Council District 9, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to make payment from the account number listed herein and for other purposes. This was favorable on condition, which I consider have being met, so I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion coming out of committee to adopt 23-R-3760. Condition has been met. Doesn't need a second. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt this item? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt carries.
Our ordinance for second read is 23-0-1333. I'm going to go ahead and read it in. An ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis, as substituted by the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee, authorizing the settlement of all claims against defendants in the case of Laurel Lawson et al. Versus City of Atlanta in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Georgia, civil action file number listed, in the amount of $600,000.00 paid within 60 days of final approval of the consent decree by the court, authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein, authorizing the chief financial officer to distribute the settlement amount, authorizing the city to permit plaintiffs and their counsel in the civil action to perform compliance services in an amount not to exceed $625,000.00 for a term not to exceed 25 years, invoiced quarterly, authorizing the chief financial officer to take the necessary actions to make these quarterly payments in an amount not to exceed $625,000.00 to be charged to and paid from accounts as determined by the chief financial officer, authorizing the city to retain the services of an outside consultant jointly selected by class council and the city to perform monitoring of the city's compliance with the consent decree throughout the term of the consent decree for a fee not to exceed $20,000 per year for years 1 through 12 and $10,000 per year for years 13 through 25, authorizing the chief financial officer to take the necessary actions to fund the outside consultant from accounts as determined by the chief financial officer, authorizing the Department of Transportation to employ a DOT ADA coordinator as provided for in the consent decree, to waive Article 10, Division 4 of the Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, insofar as it shall be necessary to authorize the actions authorized hereby, authorizing the city attorney to execute any documents necessary to effectuate the settlement authorized hereby and for other purposes. This was favorable on substitute on condition out of committee, and that condition was that we have an executive session and the full council to go over this with council members. So I will make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss pending litigation.
There's a motion by Councilmember Hillis to go into executive session, seconded by Councilmember Juan. Is there any discussion? Let me just ask the city attorney, is this per state law, is this an appropriate use of executive session? Yes, it is. Thank you. Any discussion? We can do this via unanimous consent. Any objection to moving into executive committee? Madam Clerk, please sound the count on unanimous consent of moving to executive session, sorry.
Unanimous consent is 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. Will now move into executive session. Thank you. Okay, I would entertain a motion to move back into regular session.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Hillis. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Any discussion? We can do this via unanimous consent. Any objection? Madam Clerk, please sound the count on the motion to move back into regular session.
Unanimous consent is 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. We're now back in regular session under the Committee Public Safety and Legal Administration report.
Thank you, Mr. President. So with our executive session concluded, condition has been met, so I will, the motion out of committee is to approve on substitute on condition for 23-0-1333, which for the record I read out before we went into executive session.
There's a motion coming out of committee to adopt 23-0-1333. Is there any discussion? It doesn't need a second. It's coming out of committee. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt as substituted on condition this item? Hearing none, we'll move to vote. Madam Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt.
The vote is open. Will all members please vote?
Waits is an aye.
Councilor Waits, how would you like your vote reflected?
Aye, please.
Aye for Councilor Waits.
The vote is closed. 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt carries.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that, my report is concluded.
Thank you. That concludes the report of the standing committees. We'll now move to personal papers for immediate consideration. We have 2 items for immediate consideration. We'll start with Councilor Bakhtiari.
Thank you, Council President. Before I read this in, this is just something that we all had already voted on. This is actually, my team and I made a mistake in the account strings, and this is just repairing the mistake that we made. So this is a resolution by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, Elms ID number 32986, to amend Resolution 23-R-3549, adopted by the City Council on May 15th, 2023, and approved by operation of law on May 24th, 2023, authorizing the City of Atlanta to donate a total amount not to exceed $75,000.00 to Neighbor in Need to support emergency home repairs for legacy residents in order to correct the name of the recipient of the donation to the Reynoldstown Civic Improvement League to support its Neighbor in Need Reynoldstown program and for other purposes. Whereas Neighbor in Need provides emergency home repairs to low-income elderly living in the communities of Eastlake, Kirkwood, and Edgewood communities, and whereas donations and fund repairs for heating and cooling, plumbing, electrical, roofing, and light construction repairs for elderly homeowners, and whereas for more than 20 years, Neighbor in Need has provided assistance for hundreds of residents living throughout these 3 communities, and whereas Neighbor in Need Reynoldstown was established in 2018 to help low-income elderly homeowners with professional repairs so they can remain safely in their homes, and the Reynoldstown Civic Improvement League, a registered nonprofit, sponsors the Neighbor in Need Reynoldstown program. And whereas pursuant to 6-306 of the Charter, the Atlanta City Council may authorize donations of funds and services to a nonprofit organization for charitable purposes. And whereas the city desires to donate the funds to Reynoldstown Civic Improvement League to support the Neighbor in Need Reynoldstown program in a total amount not to exceed $75,000.00 to support emergency home repairs for legacy residents and to prevent displacement. Now, therefore, be resolved by the City Council of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, and Resolution 23-R-3549 is amended to authorize the donation to the Reynoldstown Civic Improvement League to support the Neighbor in Need Reynoldstown program in a total amount not to exceed $75,000.00 to support emergency home repairs for legacy residents to prevent displacement. Be it further resolved that pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter, the Chief Financial Officer as designee is authorized to make a donation to the Reynoldstown Civic Improvement League in the amount of $75,000.00. Be it further resolved that the Chief Financial Officer is hereby authorized to charge to and pay the donation authorized herein from the following account. Be it finally resolved that all other provisions of Resolution 23-R-3549 shall remain unchanged and intact. Finally got it all. Motion to approve.
There is a motion to adopt by Councilmember Bakhtiari, Elms ID 32986. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Norwood. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt this item? Hearing none, we'll move to vote. Madam Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt carries. Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Thank you, Council President. I also like to motion to move to the mayor's desk post haste.
Motion to move this item post haste. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Westmoreland. Is there any discussion? We can do this via unanimous consent. Is there any objection to moving this item post haste? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please sound the count of unanimous consent on the motion to move post haste.
Unanimous consent is 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone.
One more item for immediate consideration, Councilmember Faroki.
Thank you, President Shipman. This is a resolution brought today by all members of council in the wake of the anti-Semitic acts in Cobb County and Macon and other acts around the state in recent time. The resolution condemning anti-Semitism and recent demonstrations by neo-Nazis across the state and for other purposes reads, whereas anti-Semitism, including harassment on the basis of actual or perceived Jewish origin, ancestry, ethnicity, identity, affiliation, or faith, remains a persistent and pervasive and disturbing problem in contemporary American society, whereas the Anti-Defamation League's 2022 audit of anti-Semitic incidents in the United States recorded 3,697 anti-Semitic incidents, an increase of 36% over 2021, and an average of 10 incidents per day, which is the largest number since the ADL began tracking them in 1979. And whereas, according to the American Jewish Committee's 2022 State of Anti-Semitism in America report, 1 in 4 Jews were the target of anti-Semitism in 2022. And whereas on Saturday, June 24th, a group of neo-Nazi extremists gathered outside the Shabbat of Cobb Synagogue to wave swastika flags and display anti-Semitic propaganda. And whereas on Friday, June 23rd, the same group gathered outside Temple Beth Israel in downtown Macon. And whereas earlier the same day, they left anti-Semitic flyers in the driveways of residents of Warner Robins. And whereas following the events of June 23rd and 24th, Governor Brian Kemp stated there is, quote, there is absolutely no place for this hate and anti-Semitism in our state, end quote. And whereas he was joined by Senator Raphael Warnock, who said that, quote, we must all raise our voices loudly against this vile hate, end quote. And whereas it is incumbent on the Atlanta City Council to join this chorus, to cry these shameful actions and stand united against anti-Semitism in all its forms, now therefore be it resolved that by the Atlanta City Council that the anti-Semitic demonstrations that have taken place across the state on June 24th and 23rd are unacceptable and hereby condemned. Be it further resolved that the Atlanta City Council requests the Atlanta Police Department continue its vigilance against bias-motivated demonstrations that target communities and tear at the fabric of inclusivity, and be it finally resolved that the Atlanta City Council stands in staunch opposition to anti-Semitism and its unrelenting ally, and is an unrelenting ally to the city's Jewish residents. Move to approve.
There's a motion to approve Elms ID 32988 by Councilmember Faroki, seconded by Councilmember Bond. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve this item? Hearing none, we'll move to vote. Madam Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 14 yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt carries.
I'd like to move that this move post haste to the mayor's office.
There's a motion by Councilmember Faroki to move this item post haste. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Dozier. Is there any discussion on the motion to move post haste? We can do this via unanimous consent without objection. Any objection? Madam Clerk, please sound the count on unanimous consent on the motion to move post haste.
Unanimous consent is 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to move post haste carries. Thank you, Councilmember Faroki. We'll now move, don't believe there are any other items for immediate consideration, so we'll now move to items for referral. Since it is Councilmember Dozier's birthday today, he gets to go first.
Thank you, Mr. President, for helping me celebrate my 40th birthday. All right, I have one item today. This is ELMS number 32963, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier authorizing the mayor or his designee to accept grant funds from the United States Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, and amend the FY 2024 budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations an amount not to exceed $30 million and no cents for the funding of the implementation of the Central and Prior Safe Streets project, to allocate funds for the local match of $10,269,338.00 from the Atlanta Department of Transportation budget, and to authorize the mayor or his designee to enter into any necessary agreements with the United States Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration for grant acceptance and participation and for other purposes.
ELMS ID 32963 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go in pretty random order today. Councilmember Boone.
Thank you, Mr. President. ELMS ID number 32996, a resolution by Councilmember Andrea Boone, a resolution authorizing the mayor to apply for and accept a Victims of Crime Act assistance grant from the Georgia Criminal Justice Coordinating Council in an amount not to exceed $300,000.00 to provide training for individuals who work with victims, to develop projects to enhance victims' rights and services, and to undertake public education and awareness activities on behalf of crime victims and other purposes.
ELMS ID 32996 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
ELMS ID number 32995, a resolution by Councilmember Andrea Boone, a resolution supplementing a joint task force fund in an amount not to exceed $7,575,000.00 for use under 3 miscellaneous repairs and construction services contracts for project number RFP C1210319 under $250,000 for ADA and other improvements as contract numbers RFP C1210319 Kissberg Parker Fry JV, RFPC Light Commercial Construction Inc., and RFPC 120319 SoCo Contracting Company in order to provide for ADA and other improvements on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation on a task order basis. All services will be charged to and paid from funding numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
ELMS ID 32995 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
An ordinance by Councilmember Andrea Boone and Dustin Hillis, an ordinance to amend the Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Chapter 30, Businesses, Article 3, Occupation Tax Division, generally to create subsection 38.7 to require that all service stations install video surveillance systems and for other purposes.
ELMS ID 33006 will be referred to the Public Safety Committee.
ELMS ID 33008, a resolution by Councilmember Andrea Boone and Dustin Hillis, a resolution authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the city of South Fulton on behalf of the Department of City Planning, granting the city of Atlanta permission to oversee permitting, construction, and inspections for the portion of any structure extending into the city of South Fulton at 4520 Patton Drive Southwest and for other purposes.
ELMS ID 33008 will be referred to the CDHS Committee.
Resolution 32989, 32989, a resolution by Councilmember Andrea Boone, a resolution requesting the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install a Do Not Block the Box sign on 510 Fairburn Road Southwest and for other purposes.
ELMS ID 32989 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilmember Amos.
Thank you, Mr. President. AMS number ID number 32993, Ordinance by Councilmember Byron Amos, an ordinance waiving Article 10, Division 4 of the Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to authorize the mayor or his designee to execute contracts with sponsors, performers, artists, venues, and vendors necessary to effectuate the City of Atlanta's host of the event celebrating hip-hop's 50th anniversary for the benefit of the public, and allowing the mayor's office to charge admission fees for the select HH50 Hip Hop 50 event, to authorize the City of Atlanta to accept donations for the purpose of supporting the city's actions related to hosting Hip Hop 50 events throughout December 31st, 2023, to authorize all costs to be paid from and all revenue and donations to be deposited into the Civic and Cultural Event Trust Fund line item listed, and for other purposes.
Items ID 32993 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
AMS ID number 33024, an ordinance by Councilmember Byron D. Amos to establish the Atlanta Youth Council to provide advice, assistance, counsel, coordination, and other resources to enhance opportunities for youth development and for other purposes.
Items ID 33024 will be referred to the CDHS Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilmember Bond.
Thank you, Mr. President. Elms ID 33012. I have a resolution signed by all council members. A resolution urging the United States Food and Drug Administration to prioritize and increase enforcement actions against manufacturers and retailers of illegal disposable nicotine vapor products, kid-friendly flavors, and for other purposes.
Items ID 33012 will be referred to the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Shook.
Thank you. First up is Elms 32979, an ordinance by Shook authorizing the abandonment of a portion of Pine Tree Road, also known as Old Pine Tree Road, consisting of approximately 0.42 acres, and being more specifically described in the attached exhibit, lying and being in the land lot indicated, authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute a quitclaim deed to the Georgia Department of Transportation for such abandoned right-of-way, waiving certain provisions of the code and for other purposes.
Elms ID 32979 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Next is Elms 32939, an ordinance by Shook authorizing the mayor or his designee to waive the sidewalk requirements, section of which is indicated in the code to provide that a certain subdivision, as listed here, that the applicant deposit a dollar amount of $3,353.45 equal to the value of the required sidewalk construction into a designated trust fund account for District 7 and for other purposes.
Elms ID 32939 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Lastly, Elms 33026, a resolution by Shook authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an amendment to the project management agreement with the Buckhead Community Improvement District for the Wyuka Road roundabout project, with such amendments to accord with the provisions, qualifications, and performance criteria for CID procurement contained in the resolution indicated, as well as including additional impact fee funding in the amount of $1 million contained in Ordinance 22-0-1733, all contracted work to be charged to and paid from the sources indicated.
Elms ID 33026 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
All.
Thank you. Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Resolution Elms 33002 A resolution by Councilmember Antonio Lewis, a resolution expressing intent to change Confederate street names in the city of Atlanta and for other purposes.
ID 33002 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. That is it for today.
Thank you. Councilmember Norwood.
Elms 33023, an ordinance to allow a sidewalk waiver issued by the Director of the Office of Zoning and Development per section listed here of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for application listed here, 10 Blackland Road, Atlanta, Georgia, 30305, and for other purposes.
ID 33023 will be referred to the Transportation Committee. Councilmember Hillis.
I have one item, Elms ID 33016, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis to authorize the mayor or his designee to execute a retroactive renewal of the Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Atlanta and the Upper West Side Howell Mill Community Improvement District, effective on February 20, 2023, for a term not to exceed 5 years. To amend the renewal MOU authorized hereby to add an additional green space area thereto, and to ratify the operation, maintenance, and improvement of the portion of certain property owned by the City of Atlanta by and through the Department of Watershed Management as part of the city's water and sewer system in connection with the Memorandum of Understanding beginning February 20, 2023 through the execution of the renewal of the MOU as authorized hereby and for other purposes.
ID 33016 will be referred to the City Utilities Committee.
And that was co-sponsored by Councilmember Westmoreland as well. Forgot to read that in.
Thank you. Councilmember Overstreet.
Okay, Elms ID number 32994, a resolution by Councilmember Mercy Collier Overstreet, a resolution supplementing a joint task order fund in an amount not to exceed $19,150,000.00 to use under two managing general contractor contracts for project number RFPC 1210031, Managing General Contractor Services as contract numbers 1 RFPC-1210031, A. Kisberg Parker Fry, a joint venture, and 2 RFP-C-1210031B, Litchi Soko, a joint venture, and for other purposes.
ID 32994 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
Thank you. Elms ID number 33021, an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet, authorizing in an amount not to exceed $1,000.00 from the District 11 Carried Forward account to Diamonds in the Rough Women's Outreach Incorporated to support its 2023 Back to School Festival and for other purposes.
ID 33021 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
Elms ID number 33015, an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet authorizing a donation in the amount not to exceed $1,000.00 from the District 11 Carry Forward account to Nabar Temple 128 to support its 2023 Youth Fest School Supply event and for other purposes.
ID 33015 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee. Councilmember Wan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two today. Elms ID 32973, an ordinance by Councilmember Alex Wan, waiving City Code of Ordinances Section 21546, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute a ground lease agreement with the Georgia Department of Transportation as owner of certain real property located at land lot 1585, Fulton County, Georgia, for a lease term not to exceed 54 years at an annual ground rental rate in the amount of $10 for the purpose of installing and maintaining a wastewater storage tank and pump station and for other purposes.
Elms ID 32973 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
And Elms 32987, a resolution by Councilmember Alex Juan authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to refund customers for overpayments to water and sewer accounts in an amount of blank, all funds to be charged to and paid from fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed and for other purposes.
Elms ID 32987 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Winston.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two items. The first item is ELMS 32949, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason H. Winston to authorize the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Department of Grants and Community Development to enter into housing assistant payment contracts with the number with 949953 Washington Street Apartments LLC for a term commencing on June 1st, 2023 and ending on May 31st, 2024 in an amount not to exceed $253,000 and 56. I'm sorry, let me say that again. $253,056.00 for the purpose of providing rental subsidies at Washington Street Apartments in order to house 16 low-income families with 8 Vernire LLC for a term commencing September 1st, 2023 and ending on August 31st, 2024 in an amount not to exceed $370,764.00 for the purposes of providing rental subsidies at the Vernire Village Apartments in order to house 28 low-income families for both under the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Section 8 Moderate Rehabilitation Program, all contracted work to be charged to and paid from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Elms ID 32949 will be referred to the CDHS Committee.
ELMS ID 32945, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason H. Winston amending the FY 2023 Intergovernmental Grant Fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations in a total amount not to exceed $620,481.00 for the purpose of increasing the budget amount authorized by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the City of Atlanta Section 8 Moderate Rehabilitation Program for the Housing Assistant Payment contracts for 949953 Washington Street Apartments LLC in an amount not to exceed $253,056.00 and 8 Vernire Village LLC in an amount not to exceed $370,764.00 and for other purposes.
Elms ID 32945 will be referred to the CDHS Committee.
Thank you.
Councilmember Westmoreland.
Thank you, Mr. President. ELMS number 32957, ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland to amend the 2023 annual action plan budget of the 2020 to 2024 consolidated plan to anticipate and appropriate United States Department of Housing and Urban Development funding in an award amount to exceed $24,783,601.00 to amend the 2019 annual action plan budget, the 2020 annual action plan budget, the 2021 annual action plan budget, the 2022 annual action plan budget, the 2023 annual action plan budget of the 2020 to 2024 consolidated plan for the purposes of reprogramming funds an amount not to exceed $9,814,197.37 to authorize the mayor or his designee to enter into contractual agreements with subrecipients included in the 2019 annual action plan budget, the 2020 annual action plan budget, 2021, 2022, and 2023 annual action plan budgets of the 2020 to 2024 consolidated plan for the purpose of funding and reprogramming Community Development Block Grant, Community Development Block Grant, Coronavirus Program, Emergency Solutions Grant, Home Investment Partnerships Grant Program, and the Housing Opportunities for Persons Living with AIDS programs, projects in an amount not to exceed $34,597,798.37. All contracted work shall be charged to and paid from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
ELMS ID 32957 will refer to the CDHS Committee.
ELMS 33027, an ordinance by Councilmembers Matt Westmoreland, Jason Dozier, and Keisha Shawn Waits, authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $16,000 to lead, launch, expose, advise, direct, to support their efforts to empower an at-risk generation, to lead and transform their city of Atlanta by using the sport of baseball to teach black boys how to overcome crime, poverty, and racism, and for other purposes.
ELMS ID 33027, we refer to the Finance Exec Committee.
33020, Westmoreland, authorizing a donation in amount not to exceed $10,000.00 from the Post 2 at Large Carry Forward account to Sheltering Arms to support their early childhood education initiatives across Atlanta and for other purposes.
Items ID 33020 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
33019, ordinance by Westmoreland, authorizing a donation in amount not to exceed $5,000 from the Post 2 at Large Carry Forward account to the Upper West Side Improvement District to support West Side Stride and its focus on designing safe, people-oriented streets and for other purposes.
Items ID 33019 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
33017, ordinance by Westmoreland, authorizing a donation in amount not to exceed $2,500.00 from the Post 2 at Large Carry Forward account to Trinity Community Ministries and for other purposes.
Items ID 33017 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
Thank you.
Q. Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Thank you. First, Elms ID number 32991, a resolution by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari requesting the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Wesley Avenue Northeast and Foot Street Northeast and always stop controlled intersections, to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at these intersections and for other purposes.
Items ID 32991 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Thank you. Elms ID number 32999, a resolution by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, Juan, Westmoreland, Winston, Faroki, Amos, Dozier, Bond, Hillis, Boone, Overstreet, Lewis, urging the Atlanta Police Department to place reports of gender-affirming care at the lowest possible priority and that no city funds be utilized to record and/or investigate reports of hormone replacement therapy and for other purposes.
Items ID 32999 will be referred to the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you. That is all for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Faroki.
Thank you, Council President Shipman. Elms ID 33013, again 33013, an ordinance by Councilmember Amir Faroki to amend Ordinance 17-0-1621, which authorized a donation to the True Colors Theater Company in an amount not to exceed $1 million to be used only for the purpose of purchasing real estate to be developed into a theater building for the company as part of the True Colors capital campaign to allow True Colors to utilize the donation to support ongoing and future theater operations and for other purposes.
Elms ID 33013 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
Elms ID 33014, a resolution by Councilmember Amir Faroki in support of the Atlanta Legacy Makers Initiative honoring Mayors Ivan Allen and Maynard Jackson and for other purposes.
Elms ID 33014 will be referred to the CDHS Committee.
Elms ID 33010, a resolution by Councilmember Amir Faroki, a resolution requesting the mayor or his designee to install traffic calming devices on Felton Drive Northeast between Angier Avenue Northeast and Ralph McGill Boulevard Northeast and for other purposes.
Elms ID, sorry, what was the Elms ID? 33010 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Elms ID 33018, an ordinance by Councilmember Amir Faroki to rename the historic Fourth Ward Skate Park the Thomas Taylor Skate Park, to waive certain provisions of sections 138-8 and 2-2 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances and for other purposes.
Elms ID 33018 will be referred to the CDHS Committee.
Elms ID 32998, an ordinance by Councilmember Amir Faroki to extend the due date by which the City Council must adopt the preliminary plan for the Moving Atlanta Forward Infrastructure Initiative, City Council discretionary accounts per ordinance 22-0-1369 and for other purposes.
Elms ID 32998 will be referred to the Transportation Committee. Councilmember Juan, I believe you have additional papers for referral.
Thank you, Council President. I have Elms ID 3308, an ordinance by Councilmember Alex Juan, authorizing the transfer of funds from various Atlanta City Council carry-forward accounts to the appropriate distribution account to replenish funds for fiscal year 2024 and for other purposes.
Elms ID 33028 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
And then Elms ID 33029, an ordinance by Councilmember Alex Juan, supplementing that certain 30-second supplemental bond ordinance 23-0-1296 adopted by the Atlanta City Council on June 20th, 2023, and approved by the mayor on June 29, 2023, to, among other things, set forth the terms of the City of Atlanta 1 Airport General Revenue Bond, Series 2023, non-AMT, the Series 2023 bonds, 2 Airport General Revenue Bond, Series 2023, C, AMT, the Series 2023 C bonds. 3, airport passenger facility charge and subordinate lien general revenue bonds, Series 2023D, non-AMT, the Series 2023 D bonds. 4, airport passenger facility charge and subordinate lien general revenue bonds, Series 2023 E, AMT, the Series 2023 E bonds. 5, airport general revenue refunding bonds, Series 2023 F, non-AMT, the Series 2023 F bonds. 6, airport general revenue refunding bonds, Series 2023 G, AMT, the Series 2023 G bonds, and together with the Series 2023 B bonds, the Series 2023 Series C bonds, the Series 2023 D bonds, the Series 2023 E bonds, and the Series 2023 F bonds, the Series 2023 bonds, within certain parameters previously established by the city, including the original aggregate principal amount, interest rates, maturity amounts, maturity dates, redemption provisions, and debt service reserve requirement with respect thereto, affirm satisfaction of the additional bonds test with respect to the Series 2023 bonds, ratify certain prior actions of the City Council and certain officers and agents of the city with respect to the issuance and sale of the Series 2023 bonds, ratify and approve the execution and delivery of a bond purchase agreement, ratify and approve the preparation, use, and distribution of a preliminary official statement, and the execution and delivery of a final official statement in connection with the offer and sale of the Series 2023 bonds, provide an effective date, and for other related purposes.
Elms ID 33029 be referred to the Finance Exec Committee. Thank you. Any other papers? Hearing none, we'll move to general remarks. Any general remarks from colleagues? Councilmember Boone.
Yes, Mr. President, I would just like to again offer our sincere condolences to the Arrington family. I had the pleasure of working side by side with him during my time working with the Honorable C.T. Martin. He was a very, very proud man, very proud to attend Henry McNeil Turner High School, one of the first of 2 African Americans to integrate the Emory University School of Law, very accomplished, and was so very proud of his children and his entire family, and would always say that my family is full of lawyers. So he came from humble beginnings. So today I ask that we keep his family lifted up in prayer. And again, we love and honor the Honorable Marvin S. Arrington, Sr. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bond.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I too want to raise my voice in acknowledging the passing of a great American, a great Atlantan, Marvin S. Arrington, Sr., Esquire, for whom this chamber is named. He was a more than extraordinary lawyer, partnered with Donald Hollowell and my uncle Howard Moore in their law firm. He was an outstanding public servant, having served on the Aldermanic Board, the Atlanta City Council in that large position, and then ultimately as the longest serving council president in the city's history. To his son and daughter and his extended family, we just want to again extend our deepest condolences on this tremendous loss. I mean, the times that I spent with him prior to my becoming elected, was through the lens of, he was one of my parents' friends, that they all came up in Atlanta together between, Morehouse and Clark and Spelman or Turner or David T. Howard, the rivalries in the games. I mean, he was at Turner, he was an outstanding athlete, quarterback of the Wolf Pack over there at Turner. And of course, he also played, believe it or not, with both legs, played on the basketball team. Of course, went on to Clark, and as Councilwoman Boone stated, he integrated Emory Law School, and just became a tremendous. To say he was a productive citizen, that's not the appropriate words. He had an impactful life on all of us who who are here, and I'm really glad that we took the time to place his name on this chamber because he loved debate. There was no time limit for the public or the members when he presided over meetings. We would be here, God, I mean, people were astonished at our long meetings recently. That was the course of business when Marvin presided, because he liked to hear people express their intellect and exchange their ideas. And so this is a tremendous tree in Atlanta is gone, but not forgotten. And he always referred to the city council as an august body in an august chamber. He had tremendous respect for the chamber and had tremendous respect for our proceedings and the way that we would deal with the public, whether they came bearing roses or with a mouthful of cuss 'em out, as he would sometimes say, you know, that these were the people that we were here on behalf of to serve. And so, again, to the Arrington family, which is a great family in Atlanta, a great family out of English Avenue, we want to again extend our condolences, and we look forward to his proceedings. And though we've named this chamber after him for his political years, you know, there may be other honors that perhaps we could bestow on him around the city and the community where he came from. So with that, I withdraw.
Thank you. Councilmember Amos.
Yes, Mr. President, as a young black public servant in the city of Atlanta, if you don't know the history or the story of Marvin Arrington Sr., then you must really second guess yourself. I can just say ditto to everything my colleagues have already said, but definitely ask us to wrap our arms around his son, the junior, who carried the name, now must carry the legacy. And that sometimes become more heavier than public service itself. So with that being said, as I always do, just want to acknowledge the work anniversaries of people that work with us and support us here in council. Miss Pat Marshall, 27 years of service to the municipal clerk's office. Melinda McNeil, one service, so she just getting started, and also our very own Damian Messenberg, who's been with us for 9 years as well. So just want to say happy anniversaries to those dedicated people. And then also just bring some attention to July 15th at Frederick Douglass High School. We will be having the inaugural West Side Day, West Side Resource Day, in which we will be bringing every resource, everything from the school board to the federal level to District 3 for our citizens to take part in. Also, along with my colleague, Post One, Michael Bunn, our senior citizens public safety event that'll take place at Friendship Towers Friday, January the 7th at 10 a.m. And then, as we always do, Hunter Hills, you're next. Walk With Me Wednesday will take place in Hunter Hills Wednesday, July the 12th at 6 p.m. And last but not least, all of the tennis lovers in the city, the Atlanta Open is back, starting July the 22nd in Atlantic Station. So if you enjoy tennis, come by and watch the U.S. Open right here in District 3. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Amos. Mr. Lewis, Councilor Lewis.
I echo the statements of my other council members when I say that the passing of Marvin Arrington and just to know what he meant to the city of Atlanta is just next level. Mr. Arrington helped build our city. We know a lot of names, but we truly need to know and understand the story of an Atlanta born and raised here, which is totally different from most folks who that we talk about in this city. So, Mr. Arrington, your statement and your presence in this city will forever be felt. And I hope we find a way to continue to honor him. And lastly, I want to make sure I say Mrs. Maxwell's name again. I never knew her first name, but I remember Bible study on Saturdays morning by a Seventh-day Adventist in her house. And I remember her husband teaching me to tie a tie when it was time for me to graduate elementary school, middle school, and high school. Each time he had to reteach me because I would forget. I want to say I truly, truly stand with your family. I'll be at the funeral. I won't be speaking because I don't know if I'll be able to, but I'm fully with y'all.
Thank you. Let me just add my voice to the cadre. Everything that's been said covers so much, and yet there's still so much to say. As an Emory alum, Marvin Arrington Sr. is a legend at the school, at the law school, an Emory Medal recipient, the highest award the university can give, someone who truly transformed the life of the university. So I, too, extend my condolences. I also want to just take the opportunity for a brief moment of thanks. The Peachtree Road Race successfully happened yesterday. Over 50,000 people ran down the heart of our city. That is only possible through the good work of Atlanta Fire and Rescue, the Department of Public Works, the Atlanta Police Department, our friends at Grady, so many who helped make that a safe event for our city. Many of us have participated, and also a big thanks to the Atlanta Track Club, which allows our city to do such an incredible job of hosting that event every July 4th. With that, without any other remarks, I ask the clerk to take the closing roll.
Council President Shipman. Here. Council members Bond. Here. Westmoreland. Waits. Here. Winston. Faroki. Amos. Dozier. Bakhtiari. Juan. Shook. Norwood. Hillis. Boone. Overstreet. And Lewis.
Without objection, we will stand adjourned. Thank you all very much.